This is Talk is Sheep, the official podcast of the Wild Sheep Society of BC, brought to you by Sitka Game. Come along as we bring conversations that matter to you into the high alpine. Well, good day, Mr. Rensmeg, episode 119 of Talk is Sheep. Here we are, buddy.
Yeah, it's exciting. We just keep moving forward, upwards and onwards, I guess.
Couple of, we've had such a great lineup of guests. We got a bunch of really exciting ones coming up, to be frank, and thank you to all our listeners for tuning in each week. This one is, I hate to say this, but it's not one we want to have. Obviously, love to have the great people from Wild Sheep Foundation Alberta Chapter on, but this one was a bit of a somber, approach to it, in the sense that Alberta's going through a M.ovi outbreak right now, and Mycoplasma ovipneumoniae disease outbreak, and it's not great news for wild sheep in Alberta, that's for sure.
No, it was scary when those messages started rolling in from the team on the other side of the Rockies there, and finding out what they're going through and seeing, like, we know all too well about how devastating that could be, as we are continually going through that and doing our best to fight it.
Yeah, so we had Matt Mellon, president of Wild Sheep Foundation Alberta, on. We've had the Alberta boys on before. We had Paul and Mikey on, and had a great talk about the great work Alberta's doing out there on the east side of the Rockies. And it was good to get Matt, their president, on. Unfortunately, Matt couldn't make that podcast, so we wanted to connect with Matt anyway, and we did have a great discussion about the great work that's going on in Alberta there. But the focus obviously was this disease event, and so for those of you that are interested, I suggest that you follow along. Alberta's done a really good job of sort of articulating what's going on and where they are, and there's some updates. I know things have changed since Matt and I talked on Friday, even since then. So, but it sounds like the Alberta government's been very proactive. They jumped right on this, and hopefully there's some. This is the end of it, but obviously we see Mycoplasma ovipneumoniae extending its ugly arms over to the east side of the Rockies.
Yeah, they're actually the Alberta latest update they posted on their Instagram was kind of hopeful. They seem fairly confident that it might be contained, so we're all keeping our fingers crossed for that situation to hopefully it is contained, because, man, we don't need that coming back on anywhere else. It's just...
Yeah, for sure. And kind of from a selfish perspective, I know people, what's one of the things I talked to Matt about on this is like, hey, how close are you to the BC border? Because wild sheep don't know borders, obviously. And, obviously we share sheep across there. Sounds like it's in the most eastern part of the province, around Highway 22. So it doesn't seem like an immediate BC problem, but regardless, it's not a great feel, not a great vibe, especially Alberta coming off a record fundraiser and just so much energy, and then having to deal with this. But hey, that's the reality. That's why we exist. This is what we do. We look after wild sheep, and we're just doing our job here. So I guess this is one of the things that keeps us in business. We don't welcome it, we don't like it, but as a conservation organization, that's what Alberta does. That's what we do here in BC, and it's the reality of our situation, and we just have to do the best we can.
Yeah, and it's when you say it's the sheep no borders. I think our membership speaks for that as well. So countless of our members and countless of their members are members of both organizations, and we all recognize that our sheep are their sheep and their sheep are our sheep. It's those Rockies don't hold those sheep back. They like to travel, and they're on both sides of the border every day.
Yeah, well said, Craig. Before we jump into the podcast here, talk to me. What's going on with with our conservation partner, Frontiersman Gear? I think they got yesterday was a big day for them, a really exciting day. Let's talk about that. Yeah,
last night, Frontiersman Gear released their Through Their Eyes film at 6 p.m. on YouTube, and they did a giveaway. It's pretty well received, for as far as I can tell. There was lots of people tuning in to watch it. It's a neat film. If you haven't had the chance to watch it, I'd head over to the Frontiersman Gear YouTube page and check it out. It's showing hunting through the eyes of a hunter, but it's got a neat perspective on it, and I'm happy we're a part of it, and I thought it was outstanding. My family loved it. We all tuned in, sat around the TV last night, and threw on YouTube and enjoyed a solid film with some solid people.
100%. It is a great film, and congratulations to Tanner and his crew at Frontiersman Gear for putting it together. It was interesting. We premiered this at our Northern fundraiser in Dawson Creek in February, and Kelly Coffey, who's our bookkeeper, who's a non-hunter, although she firmly believes in what we do as a society. She's one of our Monarch members, and she said, that's the kind of hunting film we need. We need more of that. She goes, that's one of the best hunting films I've ever seen in my life. So it was rave reviews from hunters and non-hunters. My wife as well, who has never pulled the trigger on an animal, she just thought it was amazing as well. So yeah, really cool, really good feedback, and really great to see. And I expect they'll be doing more cool films like this in the future. But congratulations to Frontiersman Gear for a great film, and really glad to be part of it.
Yeah, they actually this morning, bright and early, they did their giveaway, and Tanner and Jeff were talking live on Instagram about a couple more films in the works this year. So excited, looking forward to them if they're anything like this one, because Through Our Eyes, that's one you got to share. Like, share it with non-hunters, share it with everybody. That it speaks volumes for what we do.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Like, I'm not going to spoil it, but for those of our listeners that haven't maybe heard this before or seen it before, check it out, because it's very interesting. Like there's no crazy kill shots and stuff like that, but then there's the the blood and stuff, and it's a very genuine film. It reflects on the important stuff and the consumptive part of it. They're removing the back straps and stuff. It's just the way it's done it's definitely unique. It's something that a hunter will like and love and enjoy, and certainly a non-hunter, I think, if they have any degree of open-mindedness, that they would connect with it as well. So yeah, hats off to Frontiersman Gear. Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you say we roll into this podcast and let everyone tune into what's going on in Alberta?
Episode 119, Mr. Matt Mellon, President, Wild Sheep Foundation, Alberta. Enjoy.
This episode is sponsored by our conservation partner, Swarovski Optic. Thank you, Sitka Gear and Swarovski Optic, for investing in healthy wildlife and sustainable ecosystems.
Well, Mr. Matt Mellon, President of the Wild Sheep Foundation, Alberta, welcome to Talk is Sheep.
Yeah, thanks, Kyle. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's weird, right? We hang out at, you're out at our show. We hang out in Reno, we chat lots, and it's like, but it's kind of fun to get on here and let people hear what's going on. And I think this is a great opportunity to catch up, and lots of great things coming out of Alberta. Some stuff that I know that you don't want coming out of Alberta right now too, but and I think that's a great opportunity to catch up and see where we're at with all this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys got a good thing going on with that podcast or this podcast, and I'm happy to be here. So
cool. So let's talk about some good stuff to start with. 833, was it? Like, ridiculous, man. The Edmonton was off the hook, I'm hearing.
Yeah, we had a good attendance. I mean, obviously, anytime you move, where we've been for 23 years, there's some apprehension to doing that, and our members let us know that they're still there for us, and they all came to Edmonton, and we had a really successful convention show. So
awesome. So was it kind of the same format you guys have always done? Was there any changes there? Like, obviously the new venue, but was there new stuff that you had going on?
Yeah, well, this year we added a couple things, I guess. So we added a VIP night. We did like a cigar and whiskey tasting with our kind of corporate sponsors, the people that have kind of stepped up $5,000 and beyond, just as a show of our appreciation. Some of them have been there for over 11 years. So that was something new. It was fun. It was casual. It's the Wild Sheep family, so it's always a good time. So we rolled out of that into a bus and back to the convention center, where we where we kicked off our Friday night social to a packed room. I don't know. I'm not even sure what we ended up with. I think we sold around 250 tickets and we kept letting people in the door. So, so that was well attended. We did backpack races for the first year this year with Stone Glacier. They sent us some backpacks and a bag full of goodies, and that was a lot of fun. I think a lot of people really enjoyed that, and heck, I even think I saw my dad laughing at one point, so it must have been pretty good. Yeah, we do a pack horse race. That's near and dear to a lot of our horse people. It's always a good time as well. So we did that all on Friday night. So it was a busy Friday, and yeah, this year we changed things up a little bit and we moved our AGM out of our banquet weekend, just to focus more on the making money for the foundation and maybe a little bit less on internal politics. And so that let us have more of a life members brunch, which after Friday night, a lot of people appreciated. So, and yeah, then we went into a few seminars. Unfortunately, we had a Snowy Mountain Rifles out of Montana was supposed to make it up, but they got held up at the border with a gun. So they didn't make it for a seminar, but we had things on mountain packing and nutrition. Ian Gaisley was there with the University of Alberta, gave an update on our collaring project and just sheep management practices kind of throughout North America and in Alberta. And yeah, then we bounced into the big moneymaker, 833 people. So,
well, and from what I understand, there was the oil patch is doing pretty strong, and the money was there in the room. You guys were, I was hearing ridiculous numbers on like prices on stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a bit of a critique we've had over the last few years. People have complained that they don't want to donate us hunts. They go too cheap. It doesn't do the hunt any favors. And to be honest, Kyle, I don't know what we've done different, but the money has been in the room. The support has been there. We sold a moose hunt for $41,000. So I am humbled by it, for sure. And hopefully it attracts bigger and better as we move this thing forward. So yeah, I don't know where people are getting the money right now. I missed the memo on it, but we've certainly seen it through a lot of our different auctions throughout North America, how well some of these tags are doing. So it's encouraging.
And it's awesome, right? The net benefactor is wild sheep, right? So it's like, people are like, oh yeah, it was so expensive, or that's ridiculous. But what's our mission? What's our mandate? Like, take 3 seconds to reflect, and this is a good thing. And it's the resource needs it. Wild sheep needs us more than they ever have, which we're going to get to in a second. And I think it's freaking awesome, to be frank.
I do too. Everybody's got an opportunity to put their hand in the air. It is not an exclusive club by any means, but I understand. I'm in the same boat as a lot of those people when it comes to buying those tags, but we love the support. So,
well, and the cool thing about our fundraising models that typically fall in the conservation community, certainly in the wild sheep community, is, you got your big auction items and they're expensive. Quite often there's cheaper auction items. There'll be backpacks and stuff on that. But even if that's a little too rich for some, which it is, and I get that and I respect that, there's raffles, there's silent auction. Like, it's not like you can't find a place. And you know what? Come there and have a hell of a good time. You don't necessarily have to buy a hunt, or every little bit helps. Buy a $20 raffle ticket. It all helps to put and keep our sheep on the mountain, right?
Absolutely. I mean, there's an opportunity everywhere, and we try and do a good job on that to represent, all walks of life with our silent auction and our raffles and such. So, and they continue to do really well. So
fantastic. And you guys had some pretty cool raffles. They had that Gunworks Climber you had up, and you had that Sierra Alamo or El Campo desert sheep hunt. So who ended up winning that? I don't remember seeing who.
Oh, geez. It was actually a fella in the room, and his name is escaping me right now, but he was pretty darn excited about it. And And so I know Jacob over there is pretty excited as well, and he was following along too. So that's kind of cool, and that's what we want to see. You know, we want to give our sponsors the best bang for their buck is essentially what our job is, right? So yeah.
Yeah, it's a great hunt. We've worked with Sierra Alamo the last couple of years too. I think this is our third year, and yeah, that's a great hunting opportunity and just pretty cool spot to. I think Jacob told me their highest peak in their area is 3,000 feet. Like you're hunting sheep at sea level, which is just bizarre, man. It's so cool.
Yeah, and you know, they're really, really passionate conservation people, which I think is like the icing on the cake, right? He sent me all the videos and him packing around the little desert bighorn lambs and you know, all the health testing that they do with their herd. I honestly was almost wanted to approach him about selling a tour of their operation when they're working up the bighorn sheep, because I know I would love to be there for that, and I know our membership would too. So it'd be something neat to see, you know. But yeah, I'm like I said, the conservation on top of it all is the icing on the cake for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. They've won several awards. They won what was that award out of Montreal that they just won? He flew out there, and there was 3, I believe, outfitters in Mexico that received that award, and the other one was what was the 3 of them? Did you see that the award they won? It was I think it's a UN award that they won. I'll have to look it up now. I'm not doing it a service. It's escaping me, but
I'm gonna have to look it up too, Kyle, because I that's kind of the first I've heard of it. And you know, Jacob and I talked about is it the President's Award that he received from National in 2021?
I don't think that was it either, but we're not.
No,
doing
it
good on our
probably
awards
isn't.
right now,
But
yeah.
oh man,
Yeah.
Anyhow, a lot on the mind the last couple of days, but they represent themselves very well. Anyhow.
Yeah, they are an award-winning outfitter and done a great job, and they are very conservation-oriented, and it's pretty inspiring for sure. So, okay, enough about sheep hunting. Let's talk about what's going on in Alberta. So, you talked about the AGM moving off your show date, and I guess that's in April. You got some vacancies for directors, or what's going on with that?
April 1st, we're going to hold an AGM here in Red Deer, just somewhere a little bit central. Trying to attract as much membership as we can to come out. And yeah, every year half our board is up for re-election. So this year it's going to be our treasurer, our vice president, our southern director, and then 4 regular board directors. So yeah, right now we don't have any vacancies. The board is all full. But you know, half the board is up for re-election, and that's our kind of our time for our membership to come in and say yay or nay, or put in some new blood, and then, you know, we'll reform some committees and off to the races all over again. So
yeah, I do it all over again. And I think you said you're not up for another year. You're going into year 2 of your term.
That's right. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, we just had ours last weekend and got our board cemented again. It's always a bit of a daunting time, a little nervous time for those that are up for election, right? So yeah, it's good to get it out in the rearview mirror for sure. Because yeah, just get after looking after sheep and not worrying so much about governance, right? So.
Yeah, and to be honest, like I'm kind of looking forward to this year's AGM, and usually I dread them, right? You're trying to be well spoken. You're trying to, you know, keep things on a timely task because of everything else we have going on. And this year, yeah, I think we're going to have a great AGM. Alberta government's going to come and put on a horn aging seminar and kind of walk us through the registration process of a sheep. And hopefully we're actually going to plug a few sheep right there. They're going to walk us through the whole thing. So Grant Chapman's going to come from Alberta government, and Matt Besko is going to do his best to come as well. So something to give to our membership and maybe entice some people to show up and get a little bit more than just some financials in a election.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. And love that you're tying it in with something, right? Like if people rarely will go to an AGM unless there's a reason for it. And if that's the case, you probably, that's not always a good thing either, right? Because they're fired up about something. But if they got a reason to go there for horn aging or whatever the case may be, it's a great opportunity. So.
Well, and that was the thing. I think we worried about having good attendance. We wanted to appear transparent. And so this was a good way to entice people to come. So.
Nice. Yeah, very good. Cool. All right. So big news of Alberta, and we kind of been delaying it, and a little sobering, I guess, a bit somber subject, but take us through what you've gone through the last couple of days, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, sombering is kind of an understatement. I kind of preface this with this is exactly what we've been warning about for the last, and since I've been here anyhow, and the day has come. I took a phone call from David Park on Tuesday. He said we have a emergent situation developing in southern Alberta. We just launched a helicopter, and we are euthanizing bighorn sheep due to the discovery of M.ovi. And to be honest, I wanted to hang up my phone and run away. But I sent out a letter to our membership. Basically, what's gone on is there was reports of some dead bighorn sheep in the Blue Rock Wildland Provincial Park. Government dispatched some biologists to the area. They did confirm 6 dead bighorn sheep. There was a 7th displaying signs of severe respiratory distress and coughing. The decision was made to close the park to the public, euthanize that sheep, and send it for testing. So they were able to do that. And on Monday, kind of our worst fears were realized in that that we did have a M.ovi in our bighorn sheep population. At the time, they kept the park closed. We were able to leverage our relationships with Bighorn Helicopters and the Alberta government and ourselves to ensure that funding was there in this kind of emergent, no questions asked response. On Tuesday, the helicopter was dispatched where they were tasked with euthanizing the remaining animals in this. It's a relatively small herd of bighorn sheep. So that's what they did. And unfortunately, that's kind of what has happened. So, next steps are monitoring how effective we've been in these efforts. I know the helicopter was out yesterday and today, again, monitoring this kind of exclusion zone, if you want to call it that, of the immediate area. At this time, they're quite positive that they've got all the bighorn sheep in that infected area. And right now we're monitoring several other groups of sheep with right now that are displaying no signs of infection. But our biologists are literally sitting on the mountain all day, careful not to disturb these sheep, careful not to push these sheep anywhere. But we're, they're sitting there watching, looking for any coughing, any signs of M.ovi, nasal drip, whatever's going on. My understanding is they've also put listening devices in the trees, and I kind of had a chuckle about that because it sounds kind of ridiculous, but they're listening for animals coughing, and ones that have maybe left the herd and gone to bed in trees and such. So which can happen in the hours of darkness when we're not able to observe the animals. So that's kind of what's going on there. We're going to continue to monitor these sheep for at least 3 months. We are working with the lab out of Saskatoon to kind of identify the genealogy of this strain of M.ovi. That's going to be a huge telltale of the kind of the causable element and the vector of where it came from. And from there, we should have a pretty good idea of exactly what the kind of mechanism of transmission has been. So yeah, like I said to our membership, there's some stuff that we've done right here. It wasn't intentional, but it certainly is going to aid in the in the next steps. At least one of our collared rams was involved in this in this euthanized and dead herd. One thing there that's good is that sheep had a full health checkup, I guess if you want to call it that way. Last year when we collared it, it was swabbed, it was negative for M.ovi. It now is positive for M.ovi, so we can tell where it's been in the last 12 months, and more importantly, probably the last 2 weeks, and help narrow down that gap of where this transmission occurred, as well as the mortality alert that went off on that collar may have saved us a huge headache here as well. We were able to both confirm that there were dead sheep in there, as well as when the Alberta government sent its biologists in there, that it was a huge red flag. What else do I say about the collars? I think that's all I can say about them for now. The larger herd has our collared rams in it as well, so they're going to be easy to track. But there's no issue in losing sight of them right now. Some other things that Alberta has done well in conjunction with our government is we have identified a lot of these farm flocks that reside in this particular area, and by no accident. This has been long identified as an area that's most likely to have an outbreak. So we've identified where the farm flocks are. We put in a project through our Minister Special License funding. I think we took $60,000 there, and we are testing a lot of these farm flocks for M.ovi. So that's something that we're already doing. We've put a lot of education into these farms about what M.ovi is and how it affects our wild sheep. So that legwork that we've kind of done pre-outbreak is going to be, it's going to be well utilized, I think, in the next steps of finding the vector of where this outbreak came from. So, it just kind of goes to speak, the risk is really out there, and that's what we were trying to prove in our collaring project, that these rams do travel into these areas where there is risk of transmission, that these farms do exist within these areas. And then, the third step was going to be to show that these farm flocks are testing positive for M.ovi. And I guess nature just kind of beat us to it. And they couldn't wait for us to release the news. They went and did it on their own. So.
Yeah. Quite often, as we know, a lot of these herds are they're connective. There's a lot of interaction. Obviously, you collar the sheep, and then that one that was part of your collaring was independent of the other one, so broken off from the big herd. Are there a lot of herds nearby that you feel that there could be, obviously you guys are monitoring, but is there a lot of interaction, a lot of connectivity that you're worried about these other herds nearby?
I think it's something that you're always really worried about. And that's where my mind jumped right away, is how far behind the 8 ball are we already? And so conversations with government and, guys that have boots on the ground over there, they feel quite positive. No pun intended, but they feel quite positive that this band of rams has basically wintered right here all winter. And they haven't been around to other groups. These are kind of wintering groups. They're not traveling a whole lot right now, and they feel quite confident in that, but obviously we're going to do our due diligence to ensure that is correct. So.
Okay, good. That's good to hear. That's positive for sure, because as you know, with us in that whole Fraser River ecosystem, we've pretty much got it, certainly on the west side of the river, and I think to a lesser capacity on the east as well, but it's certainly once it gets out there, it gets out there. But maybe there's a lot more connectivity. Obviously, we have a lot of isolated herds too, right? So,
yeah, I think that just kind of speaks to the quickness of the government's reaction in trying to mitigate this risk. We won't be able to fully mitigate the risk as long as we still have domestic sheep coming in contact with our bighorns. But I think they're going to come under a little bit of fire for euthanizing these animals. But I think in an acute exposure or outbreak that this isn't a chronic issue in this area right now, but it is an acute outbreak. I think this is the proper way to handle it. Euthanizing sick sheep is not anything any of us want to do, but I think it is saved thousands of sheep at this time. So
yeah, for sure. It's a hard one for the public to get their brain around, right? We kind of understand it a little bit, certainly in BC here, where we've been doing the test and remove now for better part of 4 years. We've got a pretty good handle on it. But when the general public, they don't quite understand that, and they just see dead sheep. They don't really, it's hard to articulate. And I think there's a little bit of stuff circulating out there in the news right now that are to that kind of effect. That's probably not helping matters, I would imagine.
No, and I think that the science that does support that, that test and remove 2.0, it is more my feeling that is a proper way to do with a chronic outbreak. What you guys are maybe dealing with in BC, where it is there and it is going to be there to stay for some time. It's not feasible to kill all the sheep that have maybe come in contact. I think at this time, the government just recognized they had a very small window to enact on and possibly just mitigate this off the landscape before springtime came and these rams started to travel again.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what does it look like? You talked about you guys have had the opportunity to sort of pinpoint some flocks of domestic sheep and that sort of stuff. Do you feel that there's a vector nearby? Is this something that the government's kind of said, hey, we're really concerned about this farm here, and what does that look like for you guys? Knowing full well there's privacy issues because it's private farms and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly it. I don't know that there's any commercial herds in this area. They are kind of the hobby farms, for lack of a better word, mom and pop kind of operations where they maybe have a dozen sheep. And yeah, Ann Hubbs has helped us a lot here, where she's gone out and identified a lot of these farms in these fringe areas that we kind of already have an exclusion zone. Well, we have a 50-kilometer exclusion zone for domestic sheep and goats on public and commercial land. So that would be grazing leases. But where our legislation falls short is addressing the private land. And that's exactly what we're dealing with here is the private land and these small operations, where they feed their sheep all winter long, and our sheep come out of the mountains and, what's that over there? Looks like some good feed. They bump on in and then we have, a possible vector of transmission. But yeah, we've done a lot of work in the last 2 years on identifying those farms. This year's next steps were to start swabbing those farms with permission. Obviously, it's not something that is mandated. Today I learned that some of these farmers are already doing this. They are already doing a test and remove. I was unaware of that. I think that is really positive stuff. I hope that one of them is going to write us a bit of an article to put in our magazine to send out to our membership and beyond. Something that he's totally doing on his own dime, that he's not even being provoked by any of us to do, but he's a conservationist himself and just recognizes if he wants to have domestic sheep around, that this is what he needs to do. But yeah, we have spent a lot of time identifying these farms, and they are right there in that area. So
okay,
the risk is there.
So you talked about Ann Hubbs. Now, For our listeners in BC here, we have a provincial sheep separation coordinator. His name is Jeremy Ayotte, and funding comes from the Ministry of HCTF primarily. And now I think there's a little bit of ag money that's flowing towards them. Of course, we support the program. Do you guys have a similar program like that in Alberta, or is that the government that looks after that aspect of it?
A separation division, is that what you're asking?
Well, effectively a coordinator that will go to these farms and have a discussion with the owner and say, hey, your sheep pose a risk here in sheep range, and we'd like to be proactive here. Can we work with you? Could we test that sort of thing?
So yeah, Anne is our provincial bighorn specialist. So very passionate lady about our sheep. She's kind of taken that on herself, and I know she has a lot of roles in that position, but this has been deemed as obviously our largest risk to our bighorn sheep population. So, and Anne has taken that on and is pushing that forward. We could definitely use some more involvement from our agriculture people, but it kind of is what it is right now. It's still developing. It's been deemed as something not worthwhile, I think, from the agricultural side, but hopefully this week's events kind of put that back on the forefront. So
yeah, right on. It's interesting. So we have that program here, and it's it's tough work. It's interesting in the tri-state. So Idaho, Oregon, Washington, they actually have a coordinator as well. And I think the 3 wild sheep chapters and then the 3 governments put money towards this coordinator, and that coordinator does the same thing, goes out and works with other producers and that sort of thing to have this dialogue and do what they can to encourage separation. So yeah, we all have our own programs. It's interesting to hear what each and every one's doing. So
yeah, and to be honest, I feel like us at Wild Sheep have kind of been the liaison between the 2 groups, between agriculture and between, it used to be environment and parks. I guess it's now forestry, parks and tourism is the new ministry, I suppose. But yeah, we've been kind of pulling them together in rooms to get these talks going, and to, I mean, sometimes it's just to introduce each other, but I always get kind of poked fun at because I'm the new guy on the block, and maybe I'm a bit naive, but I try to use that being naive to my advantage, and just being able to ask these hard questions of why we're not doing more. So
awesome. So do you guys, I know, like, quite often I see you, Matt, I'm a life member of Alberta, and see your guys' social and stuff, and I see you're quite active with the old Minister of Environment, but the new Minister, Minister Lowen. What kind of work do you guys do with ag, and have you had any inroads there? Have you had any success? And you talked about an exclusion earlier. I didn't quite follow that, so you can maybe talk a little bit about policy right now, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so, and I hope I don't get this wrong, because I always kind of struggle to understand this exactly, but in Alberta, we kind of break down the province. I mean, there's huntable units, we call them wildlife management units. And then for sheep, we kind of stuff all the sheep areas into sheep management areas, or SMAs. So what my understanding of how this policy works is, on public land and grazing lease land, there is a 50-kilometer buffer around these SMAs, where there is not to be domestic sheep or goats utilized inside of them. So farmed on grazing leases, a ski hill can't use them to eat vegetation. Things like that. People can't use pack goats. None of that can go on in these areas. So that is the legislation that's there now. We would like to see that legislation, obviously, one of 2 things. We can broaden the exclusion zone to include private land, or we can add a promote herd health of our domestic sheep on the private land where we do testing and removal of infected domestic sheep. That's where our policy is lacking right now. And we bump up against agriculture there. As you know, it's not usually a fatal disease to our domestic sheep. So there is a real hesitancy to kind of invoke new legislation on these sheep owners, that they need to test, that they need to treat, that they need to do all this stuff. We've assured them we would soak up every dime of that cost of treating these sheep, of replacing these sheep with healthy sheep, and then continuing to test these flocks. There just isn't a desire to do that at this time from the agricultural side. So
Yeah, it's tough. Hey, it's and we've seen this too. And interesting is that there's a lot of producers that are keen to work. Like you just mentioned, this gentleman, this producer that does his own testing and everything like that at his own cost, which is and that's been kind of one of our argument when we meet with ag. It's like, hey, we don't expect you to do this on your own. This is a collaboration. And we're getting that buy-in here in the province too of BC. Like there's producers out there. Jennifer Bowes is one of them, and she's the lady that's featured in our film Transmission there, and she's just I don't even know how to describe it. What she does and how much she cares about the environment and wild sheep is phenomenal, and she's really kind of growing that. And so I'm seeing the changes, like the positive changes in the province for the disease issues, and it's coming from the domestic producer side, but it's not coming from the top down. It's coming from the bottom up, which is like grassroots. That's like, it doesn't get any better than that, right? But sadly, we're not really getting the buy-in from the top as much as we'd like to.
Yeah, and so I mean, I agree. I think we're all around the same campfire, to steal a quote from you guys, I guess. Whether we're ranchers or producers or hunters and conservationists. There's a lot to be done there, and we're not very far apart. So I've always said, most of us are 98% going in the same direction. We shouldn't let the 2% divide us. So I think we're there. I think change is always scary, and nobody wants the finger pointed at them, and we want to avoid pointing the finger as much as we can, and we just want to be here to help. And who doesn't want healthy sheep, whether it's your kid's 4-H project or you just like having them around? Why wouldn't you want them healthy?
Yeah, awesome. Great points. Okay, so now give me a perspective. You talked about where this outbreak occurred. How, just from a purely selfish reason, how close is this to the BC border? Like, are we talking like this is an issue for us too?
No, at this time, like this sheep herd, I'll use a highway here in Alberta. It's called Highway 22. We can look it up on a map, but it's not right against the border. It's referred to as the Cowboy Highway, I guess. But this sheep herd was visible right from that highway, and may have even crossed that highway at times. So that I think is again positive, and I think even points even stronger to probably where the transmission occurred. It's very eastern part of where our bighorn sheep will travel to. So
okay,
yeah.
Now for our listeners, anyone that's out there in the backcountry, maybe in the foothills hiking around, or the Rockies, what do they do? How can they help you guys? What can they do to support this outbreak, and what are they looking for, I guess?
Yeah, so actually great question, because I think I really thought about that last night, and I think that's going to be some topics that are really going to come out of this. If you find a bighorn sheep, get a hold of us. If there's no defined causation of decease, it's just a dead bighorn sheep laying there. It's not a wolf kill. It's not a sheep kill. Maybe there's more than one. Call Wild Sheep Foundation Alberta. call the government. If you don't hear back, keep pushing it up. When the right person hears that that message, there's going to be alarm bells going off, and people are going to take that really seriously. We've put out signs in the past to warn people about what a M.ovi is, and that you can't have domestic sheep or goats, you can't have pack goats. We've put them at trailheads. One regret that I was having yesterday is we don't tell people what to do if they find a dead bighorn and there's no definitive causation of death. That's maybe a miss on our behalf, and something that we're definitely going to rectify. But that's what I would say. I mean, call us, email me, whatever it is, and we'll get the right people on it. But that I just can't say that strongly enough. So the quicker we can act on it, the better. So
awesome. Okay, that sounds great. Anything else for our listeners about this outbreak that I missed to ask you about, Matt?
It's obviously still a developing story. We're going to have to kind of ride it out for now. We're going to be asking our volunteers for some help in monitoring this sheep herd. The government reached out yesterday. They're talking about testing and collaring some more sheep out of this herd that's close, this big herd that's close. They want to test and monitor. So that's a big undertaking. It costs a lot of money. I mean, the collars alone are probably $1,000 a piece. Drop nets aren't cheap. Helicopter time isn't cheap. Darting rams, you run into a lot of risk there too of harming the animal. So there's going to be an ask to our membership to volunteer to go up on the mountain and sit with some sheep for a day. There's going to be a financial component to this, which then brings in probably our Minister Special License funding front and center for this kind of emergency funding. We do keep a fund of our life membership money around for just such a thing. We have yourselves as our neighbors. I've spoken to Wild Sheep National, Kevin and Gray Thornton. They've assured me there's funding available should we need it. But right now we are sitting on bated breath that these other sheep remain healthy, and then obviously we need to tackle legislation. So
okay. Well, I don't envy you, buddy. In some ways, it's interesting. I was thinking, what's going to happen first? Alberta get M.ovi, or we get the CWD, right? So I guess I'm sure we got CWD too here, but it's just not reported. And just like you probably had M.ovi and you didn't know it. So
yeah,
not good. But no, I appreciate it. We feel for you guys, and obviously your brothers and sisters of the West are here to support you guys wherever we can. And so let's segue off this a little bit, and let's talk a little bit about, you guys have done a great job on building the Wild Sheep Foundation Alberta. Lots of great stuff going on. So projects, let's talk about where the money's going. What are you guys supporting? What's the big stuff over and above the M.ovi stuff right now?
Yeah, so M.ovi, I mean, M.ovi is like kind of the unsexy project, right? Like, it's disease, it's medical, it's blah. But damn, I'm proud that we've done the stuff that we've done now that we're up against this. But our collaring project was a big project that we've undertook. We're expanding it by another 40 collars this year. It does a number of things, but to talk about a M.ovi, it talks about our risk. The data shows where these rams travel, but the data also shows their habitat selection. It shows traditional travel routes, so much so that we can sit down on a computer and a ram might sit around in a group for 2 months, but then when he decides to go on foray, by the first 2 points of where he ended up on a ridge where he's going, and they get to be that predictable. So that helps us in planning things like prescribed burn. Areas of travel are always risky for our bighorn sheep when it comes to depredation, ambush predators like cougars and wolverine. So our collaring is doing that and more. I mean, it's showing, in the Ghost Valley where we had that big burn, it's showing that they're selecting that as suitable habitat. Not that we needed any more science to support how good these burns are, but again, it's supporting that. And I think even Brian Macbeth out of Banff National Park, they've collaborated with us on this, and he said like he had 3 of his rams leave the park and now reside in that burn. And that's a huntable area of Alberta, but they've chosen that habitat as home now. So very interesting data comes out of our collars. Obviously, we've really been pushing habitat enhancement in Alberta, the need for prescribed burns, and good quality prescribed burns is a must. We worked with the Alberta government, with Alberta Wildfire and Forestry and Agriculture and Parks to expand a burn. So we kind of took an existing vegetation management strategy in the Evan Thomas Ribbon Creek area, just outside of Kananaskis Canmore. And we took essentially a 200 hectare burn and we turned it into a 8,000 hectare burn, just by moving some of the burn lines to best, enhance our wild sheep habitat. And I mean, it's going to benefit everything from the little itty bitty bird that likes to collect grass seeds to the grizzly bears to the elk, mule deer, and moose. But that's something I think that we should be proud of. I've been working with Minister Lowen on ensuring those fire breaks are going in this spring, so that we can potentially burn in the fall if we get the right conditions. We're very active as well in our predator management. We have a few programs out. We work with our trappers to give them incentive to trap wolves in sheep management areas, as well as houndsmen. A problem that we kind of identified was that we do have a lot of opportunity to hunt cougars in Alberta. However, a lot of these mountain zones that are deep within sheep management areas are not, the quota isn't being fulfilled. So we are trying to, when we talk to our houndsmen, they say it's just too hard to get there. There's too much effort. It's not worth it. To go into those areas to close out those tags, to help address, maybe some of these specialist predators that we have out there. We're very involved in our youth. We put on a big youth camp every year. Paul Chambers, our Northern Rockies director, has done a great job with that over the last 3 years. And I think he has a lot of fun doing it. He's their size. So got a bug Paul.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And and that's kind of, that's the gist of what we really have going on right now. Alberta hasn't been involved in translocating sheep in a few years. But that is incentive why, if Alberta's doing well, then the rest of North America does well as well. So yeah, that's kind of what we got going on in a nutshell. I feel like I've missed something there, but running on a little bit of lack of sleep here the last couple of days. So
yeah, no doubt you've had a full plate, so we'll forgive you if you skipped. That's a pretty healthy list, man. It's really inspiring, and it's good to see that some really good things are going. And that's the other side of it too, right? So if anyone ever criticizes that, we don't always need to spend every penny. Like, we have this scenario, we've got this outbreak, and there was a chunk of money that you guys needed, and you had it, and it was sitting there. And this won't be the first, and there's going to be opportunities that come up too. So yeah, kudos to you and the team for all you're doing there.
Yeah, and just to give people an idea, I am not sure. We haven't gotten a bill yet, but I mean, you're probably looking at $20,000 a day for that helicopter to fly around, 15 to 20, depending on the hours that they put in.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well done. Okay, let's talk a little bit. You mentioned Minister Lowen. So Mr. Lowen's the incoming minister. He's just new to the portfolio. I'm not even going to try and say what portfolio it was, but the old Minister of Environment. But Minister Lowen at Sheep Week made an announcement, and it was kind of groundbreaking, earth-shattering, but it's the special minister's license and opening up to a 365-day season, which was awesome. I want you to talk about the price, but the flip side is the court of public opinion. So now, National Post article that came out, I believe it was 2 days ago on March 14th, quote, Alberta extends big game trophy hunting from 3 months to year round, raising concerns, end quote, which, okay, no worries. It's one freaking tag that raised probably an extra $100,000 to $150,000 for wild sheep conservation because of it. So how do we tackle these bloody social license issues when it's like in the grand scheme of things? But what it also did is it opened that kind of Pandora's box where it's like somebody paid $350,000 and this elitist, oh my goodness. So obviously it's not your concern. It's not your job to sort of right the ship but how do we combat the social license issue around these issues, something like this?
I have no problem talking about it. I think in a lot of ways, Kyle, we're way too nice when it comes to this kind of thing. Essentially, this is the North American model for conservation. It is hunter paid for conservation. I'm not sure about you guys in BC, but we have yet to get a check from Greenpeace or Greenpeace-like groups. It is on the backs of our membership, our hunters, and our partners south of the border that buy these tags. Anybody can buy this tag. I mean, obviously, it sells for the money it does because of who these people are. But we've had plenty of Alberta residents buy this tag in the past. I know several of them. We also, the social license behind it is that we do understand, or the government does understand, that not everybody can obviously pay to buy that tag, and so to offset that, we give the resident the opportunity to buy a $10 raffle tag that is also another tag that goes out to kind of combat that social license that this is an elitist thing. Since I became the president, and had the ear of a few people that weren't maybe satisfied with what are the monies that our tag had been generating in the last few years in comparison with yourselves, Montana, Oregon, all those tags that are doing so well. We recognize that we weren't meeting the industry standard in a way of offering an extended season. Our extended season was 2 weeks beyond what the general hunting season was. Hearing these people, we approached then Minister Nixon. I know the AFGA was involved in those talks, and certainly Alberta Professional Outfitters Association or society was front and center there too. And it was brought to their attention that I believe your tag runs till the end of February. Is that correct, Kyle?
I think it's open from anytime we have a sheep season open. It's open during that period. So I think I'm not even going to guess. Actually, I haven't been lucky enough to draw the thing, to be honest with you, but it's a very long season. It's like August 1st right through to the end, and I'm not sure if it's quite that late, but it's late.
Okay. Yeah, and so that was kind of we said, like, if we're going to auction this tag and we're going to say that we're going to kill a bighorn sheep in the name of conservation, we need to make sure that we're maximizing the amount of dollars that we bring in doing so. It's a due diligence that we really have. Nobody's gonna have the appetite to do it for as cheap as we can. So that was kind of the front and center of that argument or that discussion. And I was surprised to learn it went 365 days a year. I think it was the easiest thing for them to do. It really put Alberta front and center on what this tag really means to conservation. And we certainly saw that in Reno when that tag sold for $375,000 USD. So we've seen a huge jump in all of our tags. Our moose tag sold for 60,000, no, not 60, 30,000. Our mule deer went for 225,000. That's almost 200,000 more than it usually sells for. You know, our elk went really, really well. And all that money comes back into a pot where organizations like ourselves utilize it. You know, last year alone, I think Wild Sheep Foundation Alberta utilized just over $220,000 worth of minister special license funding. It goes into this disease mitigation, the collaring projects, the burn planning, all of it.
Yeah, and these are like really, really good projects. It doesn't go to, you know, to garbage. It's really, really, really solid projects that are changing the face of conservation. You know, and you look at Wild Sheep Foundation, they auction all those tags every year. And there's controversy because there's a lot of people that don't have $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 for a sheep tag. But, you know, like Gray Thornton of the Wild Sheep Foundation talks about, is that sheep don't pay their way. A $60 sheep tag doesn't go very far for conservation when you've only got 2,000, 3,000 sheep hunters in the province. You start adding that up, $60 a tag, 3,000 sheep hunters, we're woefully inadequate in our funding. And this is a really important part of our funding model. So, you know, if you're going to take money out of general revenue to support wild sheep, and we know in BC that's not the case here. We are woefully underfunded, certainly compared to other jurisdictions, and that the money has to come from somewhere. And you know, is it a perfect system? But like you said, the North American wildlife management model is based on that. That's how we look after wild sheep, and no one else is stepping up to do it. So we got to do it somehow. And it's really, really exciting to see that what happened with Alberta this year. It was inspiring. So Minister Lowen was down at Sheep Week. He showed up. He stood up on the stage and he talked about how important the sheep money is and how important it is. And you guys, was it a record for you guys this year?
No, back in the early 2000s was probably when we hit our record, but we're not far off. Right. It's certainly a lot better than it's done in the past few years. And you know, we've been trying to recognize Alberta. I mean, Alberta, no secret, cattleman was a big money maker for us for a lot of years. But you know, as I've been trying to showcase, you know, like the ram behind me is from southern Alberta. That's a 209-inch bighorn sheep.
When did you shoot that, Matt?
I wish. That is a replica, but it belongs to Wild Sheep Foundation Alberta, and it's a beautiful species. But I guess my point is Alberta just isn't just cattlemen. Those genetics are spread out through the entire province. That opportunity is there from you know, from cattlemen north all the way down to Waterton. You know, we just had that 204-inch 15-year-old ram. I think he shared our provinces, and he was, you know, documented to be in Montana. But he called the Waterton National Park home, and you know, beautiful sheep, huge sheep, and you know, we continue to produce them, and so that's been my biggest thing. Is a lot of people will complain that cattleman is you know, over your expectations are overdeveloped there, but you know, I most of our minister special license rams have been coming out of southern Alberta in the last few years. So
yeah, right on. Now, just to talk to me, Wild Horse Island has a new world record bighorn, the 216 and 3/8, I think it was. Were some of those transplanted out of Alberta? Did that stock come from out of Alberta? I'm not sure what the story is there.
I would love to say yes, but I don't know that those sheep made it onto Wild Horse Island. I believe more of our Alberta genetics probably made it into your Missouri breaks, or not yours, but the Missouri breaks. Right. Yeah. Over the years, though, good topic, because I mean, Alberta, I think somewhere around 812 translocated bighorn sheep over the years.
Is that right? That's a lot.
That's right. I think they went to 11 different states and one other province.
Wonder what province that is.
Yeah. Not Saskatchewan.
Yeah, and and that's the cool part of our wild sheep family too, is how we pass the love around, right? Somebody needs sheep, and if we have an abundance, we'll do what we can. But and I know a lot of people are like, well, why aren't you guys transplanting sheep? And like, well, we need healthy source herds, and we need a healthy destination too. You can't put 25 healthy bighorns into one that's infected or has any chance of infection, because there's zero net gain on that for sure. So awesome. Okay, what else are we talking about? So a little controversy there. You got to spice it up a little bit. What else? We're going to talk membership. What do you want to talk about? What else is going on in Alberta, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, we've been continuing to push our membership. We're over that 500 life member mark now. It wasn't very long ago we were sub 200 life members. So we're enjoying the enthusiastic membership that we're seeing come through the door. We always want it to be more. The more our membership is, the larger our voice is going to be when it comes to dealing with issues. And I don't know, we're a darn good time, I think. So membership's always an issue. It's always on my mind. What do they want to hear from us? What do they want to see from us? And how do we attract new membership and then in turn hold on to them and get them to level up, so to speak. So
awesome. So speaking of that, talk to me about Skyline. What's going on with that, man? I thought you were saving number one for me, and I understand somebody bought it. I'm like, what the heck? So talk about your new elevated membership, Life Member Plus. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. So, yourselves, you have the Monarch level, National has their Summit level. A lot of other organizations kind of have their Life Member Plus, if you want to call it that way. It's just something we've been kicking around for years on what to do, so I think we finally bit the bullet and we did it. It's a $2,000 commitment to the Skyline level. Don Stevenson, bless his heart, said, hey, you guys are doing something that's pretty cool. How about we give them a knife too? And so Don's partnered with us. You sign on as a Skyline member. We're going to give you a plaque to recognize your efforts, and Don's going to send you a knife individually engraved with your membership number. So so pretty exciting. We auctioned off the first, essentially 4, numbers 1 through 4 at our banquet, and we're getting some good buzz around it, and that'll be we have a little bit of work to do on the back end just to make sure that we can support it when it goes live, but it's set to go live here basically any day and be available for purchase of both. We have a payment plan for it, as well as a one-time payment option as well.
So with that, how does it the first 4, what did they sell for?
They sold for about $2,800 a piece.
Nice. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And so they're not live yet. We can't get anything else just yet.
No, I want to buy one real bad, but and I know I have the ability to do it right now, but it probably wouldn't look good if I was number 5. So I'll wait in line, and I'll let some other people enjoy those low numbers, and I'll humbly watch the money come in. So
okay, cool. Awesome. Well, great. And is it do you get a charitable receipt with you guys, your charity status?
Yeah. There's a charitable receipt that comes with that. The only thing that we have to work around, and we're always bumping into, CRA guidelines and AGLC and all the rest of it, that we're just going to knock off the cost of the knife, and you get the rest as a charitable receipt. And that's just the way we have to do it because of being a charity and Canada Revenue Agency. So, but all of our memberships are eligible for tax receipts.
So if I want number 5, would it cost me $2,800 or what? Or I just got to be like really quick on the spot.
Yeah, I know a guy that could help you out. So
Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, I told Chambers I was gonna if he monarched up, I would skyline up. So I don't know if he's monarched up yet. He probably has, but I'm sure he will be keen if well, he's forced to if I buy a skyline.
He
So,
is. I mean, you
yeah.
better leverage him. And you know what? I'll say Paul's a man of his word. This year at Reno, I think a couple of years ago we really wanted to change how our face was at Reno and totally reinvent our booth and our interaction with people. And so, they give away, well, they don't give them away, but you can get a tattoo in Reno, a wild sheep tattoo in Reno. And so I told the members, like our board of directors, that if we got 10 in Reno, I would get a wild sheep tattoo. And so I held up my end of the bargain and I got that tattoo. And this year, Paul put his name forward and said that he would, and Paul followed through. So good on him. He's a man of his word. So yeah, Todd, I think we sold 22 life members in Reno, and Todd also went and got a wild sheep tattoo. So the love was spread around pretty good. So
Nice. You're gonna start running out of directors to get. If you guys are so successful, you're gonna be in trouble here.
We're gonna have sleeve tattoos here soon. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Matt, congratulations to you and your team for all the hard work you're doing. It's really, it's tough. I get it with the M.ovi thing, and appreciate the transparency and how you guys are getting the word out and dialoguing and the hard work you're doing there. And if there's anything, like I said, we could do on the western side of the Rockies, we'd be happy to help out. And you guys are always quick to support our projects. And if you never need any support on the backside, we're there for you for sure. So we all know that sheep don't know the borders exist, right? So M.ovi wanders in from Alberta to BC. There's nothing stopping them. So yeah, I don't think anyone's going to argue too hard if we happen to support you guys on something like that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, it's kind of a developing issue right now. We're kind of waiting for an organized response from the government, what they need from us and where we can be most effective. And then from there, I think we'll probably be reaching out to our partners. So
awesome. Any last words about Wild Sheep Foundation Alberta? I think we covered a lot today. We got some controversy in there. We should maybe talk board politics. Why don't we do that or something?
Oh yeah. You know what? These guys are fun. I enjoy our meetings. I gotta admit, we're having a pretty good time over at Wild Sheep Alberta right now, and I think it shows, right? We hang out together outside of work hours, if you want to call it that, and I don't know, there's always a high five or a drink being cheers somewhere. So
right on, man.
You bet.
Right on. Well, one thing to that note is I've never seen our Wild Sheep family stronger than it is now. And, we're under that umbrella of the Wild Sheep Foundation and all our chapter and affiliates. And it just feels like, you're a life member here in BC. I'm a member out there in Alberta, and so many people are like that. And we really get the big picture. We're in this together, and anything we can do to support one another, that's amazing. So congratulations to you and your team, and thank you for chatting with us today, Matt.
Awesome. Thanks, Kyle. And right back at you. I think our board models a lot of stuff that's coming out of BC. So you guys should be proud of that as well.
Awesome.